the farm beyond the ridge. The wagon rolled slow across the dusty ridge, the sun bleeding red over the endless Wyoming plain. James Calder held the reins with a tired grip, his hat low over his eyes. The year was 1887, a season of drought, debt, and too many ghosts. He'd sold everything back in Abilene, the small blacksmith shop, the cabin, even his father's rifle, all to buy a piece of forgotten land west of nowhere. Folks in town said no man stayed long on that land. Cursed, some whispered. Haunted, others muttered. James didn't care. He wasn't running from ghosts. He was running to peace. When he first saw the land, it stretched out like a sleeping beast, hills rolling into pine woods, a creek glinting in the sunset. The old farmstead sat alone in a valley of silence. Roof sagging, windows empty, fences half broken. Still, something about it pulled him in, like it had been waiting for him. He stepped down from the wagon, dust settling around his boots. The place smelled of wild sage and rain that never came. A faint wind rustled the wheat that had grown wild and tall. He took a slow breath. "Home," he whispered. Then came the sound, low, deep, and impossible. A voice. "Home," it said. That word, we haven't heard it in a long while. James spun, hand to his holster. "Who's there?" The ground seemed to tremble, a faint vibration through his boots. From behind the barn, 3 silhouettes rose, tall against the orange sky. For a heartbeat, James thought the sun was playing tricks, but then his breath caught in his throat. They were women, but not like any women he'd ever seen. The first stepped forward, her hair the color of copper wheat, long as a waterfall. Her eyes were green, not soft, but ancient, as if she'd watched seasons come and go for centuries. Her bare feet pressed into the earth like she belonged to it. The second moved beside her, broad-shouldered, skin sun-warmed and freckled, with a calm strength in her stance. She carried a wooden staff taller than most men, its surface carved with patterns that shimmered faintly in the dusk. And the third, the youngest, maybe, had hair black as midnight rain, her expression quiet but curious, as though she saw right through him. James's heart thundered. They were giants, not monstrous, but beautiful, each easily 12 feet tall, their presence both terrifying and holy. He stumbled back. "What in God's?" "You bought this land," said the copper-haired one. Her voice rolled like thunder far off the mountains. "That makes you its keeper now." James swallowed. You live here?" "We do," said the dark-haired one softly. "We always have." The strong one leaned on her staff. "And now so will you." James blinked. "You're saying—" "You're going to live with us," the first woman said simply. The air went still. James didn't move. His mind wrestled between fear and awe. "You're not ghosts." The women exchanged glances. The copper-haired one smiled faintly. "Not ghosts. Not quite human either. We are the daughters of this land, bound to it. Guardians, if you will. When men first came here, they built their homes, plowed the fields, and we watched. But they forgot the old packs. They took and took until the land grew tired. And now?" James asked. "Now," she said, "it calls new blood. You." He laughed shakily. "Lady, I'm no savior. I just want a quiet place to live out my days." "Then you chose well," said the youngest. "Quiet is what we have. Too much of it, perhaps." For a moment, none of them spoke. The wind sighed through the wheat. The sun slipped behind the ridge, leaving them in the amber light of dusk. Finally, the strong one turned toward the barn. "Come," she said. "You must be hungry." James hesitated, then followed. The door creaked open, revealing a space that was somehow larger inside, a strange shimmer bending light at the edges. A wooden table, carved bowls of fruit and bread, jugs of water. Everything looked old, but untouched by time. He set his hat down, wary but fascinated. "You 3 live here alone?" "Yes," said the copper-haired one. "We had a 4th once, our sister Storms. She left when men stopped believing. We wait for her still." James frowned. "You speak like spirits of the earth." The youngest smiled. "Something like that." They moved with a grace that made the air itself seem to hum. When the copper-haired one poured water into his cup, The liquid shimmered faintly, cold as snow melt. James drank, feeling warmth spread through his chest. Not heat, but a strange peace. "You have a name?" she asked. James called her. "From Abilene." "I am Ira," she said. "This is Malin." She nodded to the tall one with the staff. "And that's Sarah." He nodded back, unsure what else to do. "Pleasure, I guess." Sarah giggled softly. "You're the first man to say that, and stay." Ira's gaze softened. "You need not fear us, James. This land chose you for a reason. But you must understand, once you live here, you cannot easily leave." He set the cup down. "That a warning?" "A truth," said Malin simply. The wind outside howled suddenly, shutters rattling. The air turned cold. Ira rose, her expression tense. "The ridge stirs," she murmured. "Something crosses the boundary." Sarah's eyes darkened. Men again. James stood. "What's happening?" Malin's voice rumbled low. "Those who covet this land, they come every few years. They never learn." James reached for his revolver. "Then they'll learn tonight." Ira looked at him, truly looked, and for a heartbeat he felt the ground pulse under his boots like a living heartbeat. "You defend this place?" He nodded. "It's mine now, isn't it?" For the first time, Ira smiled fully, a smile that could stop rain. "Then you're one of us." Outside, thunder cracked, though no storm clouds hung in the sky. The air shimmered, the wheat bending in waves like the sea. The three giant women stepped into the night, their forms glowing faintly beneath the moonlight. James followed, revolver in hand, heart pounding, not knowing if he was walking into danger or destiny. The night the earth remembered. The sky had turned silver. The moon rose like a coin above the valley, lighting the old farm in ghostlight. James stood at the edge of the wheat, revolver in hand, heart drumming like a war beat. Beyond the ridge, faint torchlights flickered. Men on horseback, 6 of them at least, moving through the dark like wolves. Ira's voice was low and steady. "They come for the land again. They always do." Sarah crouched, the earth trembling faintly beneath her knees. "They bring shovels and greed. They think the gold under the hills still sleeps." Malin planted her staff into the ground, the air humming as if the world itself held its breath. "Then let them see the truth." James watched in awe. The 3 giant women glowed faintly, a soft, pulsing light beneath their skin. Ira turned to him, her green eyes fierce and sorrowful. "Stay behind us if you wish to live." He shook his head. "I didn't come this far to hide." Ira's lips curved faintly. "Then stand with us," James called her. The riders thundered into the clearing, laughter echoing as they saw the faint firelight from the barn. Their leader, a scar-faced man with a red kerchief, dismounted and spat. "Old farm, easy pickings. Reckon we can smoke out, whoever's squatting." Then he saw them. At first, the men froze, unsure what they were seeing. The moon caught on Ira's copper hair, on Malin's carved staff, on Sarah's dark gaze that glowed like embers. "Saints above," one whispered. "Shoot 'em," shouted the leader. "Ain't natural." Bullets cracked through the night, but they didn't strike flesh. Each one hit an unseen wall of air and dropped harmlessly into the dirt. The wind began to twist, the ground shuddering beneath the riders' feet. Ira stepped forward, her voice carrying like thunder. "You've taken enough from this valley. You poisoned its water, broke its stones, and fed your greed with the bones of the earth. No more." The men scrambled, some fleeing into the wheat. The leader tried to reload, cursing. James raised his revolver and fired once. Not at the women, but the man's gun hand. The shot hit true. The pistol flew into the dust. The man howled, clutching his wrist. You're with them?" James walked forward, steady as dawn. "I'm with this land." The earth split at the man's feet, a thin crack glowing blue-white, humming with ancient power. He stumbled back, fell to his knees, and crawled away into the night screaming. When the echoes faded, silence returned, heavy and sacred. Ira turned slowly. Her glow dimmed. "It is done." Malin's staff sank into the ground, sealing the crack with a whisper. "For now. But they will return, as men always do." James looked around the field. "Then I'll be here when they do." Sarah smiled softly. You speak like one of us. The night deepened. The danger passed. The land itself seemed to sigh in relief. Crickets resumed their song, and a soft wind moved through the wheat. Inside the barn, Ira set a lantern between them. Its light painted her face in gold and shadow. James sat on a crate, the adrenaline fading, replaced by quiet wonder. You fought like you were born here, Ira said. Maybe I was meant to find this place, he answered. Or maybe it found me. Sarah tilted her head. The land does that, calls to lonely hearts. You weren't running from ghosts, were you? James hesitated. A wife. She passed 2 winters ago. Couldn't bear the town after that. Every corner felt empty. Ira's eyes softened. The earth carries sorrow, too. It remembers every tear, every grave. He met her gaze. And you? Do you ever feel alone? Ira looked at her sisters, at Malin, silent and strong, at Sarah, young and restless, then back at him. We feel everything the land feels. Seasons come and go, but nothing changes. You're the first new voice we've heard in 100 years. The words hung between them. James rose slowly. Then maybe it's time things changed. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Ira reached out, her hand enormous, yet trembling slightly, and placed it over his. The touch was warm, alive, grounding. Something ancient passed between them. Not magic exactly, but recognition. As if the earth itself had drawn 2 lost souls to the same heartbeat. Malin smiled faintly, eyes shining. The land chooses well. Sarah laughed softly. He'll have to learn to fix the fences. James chuckled. Guess I better start tomorrow. Ira's voice turned gentle. You're welcome here, James called her. You're going to live with us, as keeper, as friend, perhaps more, if the seasons will it. He nodded. I'll stay. Months later, winter came quiet that year. Snow lay thick on the hills, but the creek never froze. The farm lived again. Fences mended, fields plowed, the barn repaired. James worked the land by day, and by night he sat by the fire, listening to the sister stories, of rivers older than memory, of mountains that once walked, of stars that fell and took root as trees. He grew stronger, calmer. The ache in his heart eased, replaced by something new, a sense of belonging that no town had ever given him. Sometimes he'd see Ira at the edge of the field, her hair blazing in the sunset, her giant form fading with the dusk. She'd smile, and for a heartbeat the world felt whole. On the first day of spring, James planted a single seed by the creek. For her, he whispered, though he wasn't sure which her he meant, his lost wife or the woman of the land who had taught him to live again. The seed took root that very night. By morning, it had become a tree, tall and golden, its leaves whispering softly, as though speaking both names at once. Epilogue. Years later, travelers passing through the valley would tell stories of a farm where the earth always bloomed, no matter the drought, of a man who never aged, of 3 towering women seen walking the fields at dusk. They said that when the wind blew through the wheat, it carried laughter, his and theirs, and the sound of peace. Because sometimes the loneliest man on earth finds not what he sought, but what the world itself wanted him to find. And when that happens, the land remembers.